My parents told me, "You're not invited, because your presence makes your sister uncomfortable." So, I called the restaurant and said, "Cancel everything." The person who pays just left out of their invitation. I'm Sarah, 28, and I need to get this off my chest because what happened 2 weeks ago has completely changed my relationship with my family forever. Some background first. I'm the older sister by 3 years. My younger sister Emma has always been the golden child, you know the type. She could do no wrong in my parents' eyes while I was constantly criticized and held to impossible standards. When Emma got mediocre grades, it was she's trying her best. When I got straight A's, it was why didn't you get into Harvard like the Johnson's daughter? Despite this favoritism, Emma and I had a decent relationship growing up. Sure, there was sibling rivalry, but nothing too extreme. That changed about 5 years ago when Emma started dating Jake, this wannabe influencer who thinks he's God's gift to humanity. Jake has this bizarre jealousy toward me because I'm financially successful. I'm a senior software engineer at a major tech company and make good money. Emma works part-time at the boutique and Jake's content creation brings in maybe a few $100s a month on a good month. The problems really started when Emma and Jake got engaged last year. Suddenly, everything became about how I was showing off my success and making Emma feel bad. If I mentioned getting a promotion, I was bragging. If I drove my car to family events, I was flaunting my wealth. If I offered to help pay for anything, I was trying to make them look bad. It was exhausting walking on eggshells around them. But I kept my mouth shut because family is family, right? I figured once they got married and settled down, things would improve. I was so incredibly wrong. The incident that led to this whole mess happened at Emma's engagement party 3 months ago. I had offered to host it at my house since I have a large backyard and nice space for entertaining. Emma initially said yes, but then Jake convinced her that having it at my place would make it seem like I was trying to upstage their moment. So they moved it to my parents' house instead. At the party, I was talking to my cousin Mike about work stuff, nothing boastful, just normal conversation about a project I was working on. Jake overheard and loudly announced to the entire party that I was always trying to make everything about me and my fancy job. I was mortified. I hadn't even been talking to him. I pulled Jake aside and quietly asked him to please not make scenes like that, especially at his own engagement party. He got in my face and started yelling about how I think I'm better than everyone else and how Emma deserves better than having a sister who constantly puts her down. I never put Emma down, if anything, I've always been supportive of her choices even when I disagreed with them. Emma, instead of telling her fiancé to calm down, joined in. She said I was always making her feel inferior and that she was tired of living in my shadow. This came completely out of nowhere. I had no idea she felt this way because she had never once mentioned it to me. We had always seemed close. The party ended with me leaving early in tears while Jake shouted after me about how I was running away like always. My parents did nothing to defend me. They just stood there looking uncomfortable and later told me I should apologize to keep the peace. I didn't apologize because I genuinely had no idea what I would be apologizing for. Having a good job? Being proud of my accomplishments? Making conversation at a party? It felt like I was being punished for existing. After that, family gatherings became tense. Emma would make passive-aggressive comments about my fancy lifestyle and Jake would openly roll his eyes whenever I spoke. My parents started asking me to tone it down and not mention work or anything that might set Emma off. I felt like I was being erased from my own family. Things came to a head 2 weeks ago when my parents called me about Emma's birthday dinner. Emma was turning 25, and my parents wanted to take her somewhere special to celebrate. They had picked Marcello's, this upscale Italian restaurant downtown that costs about $80 per person. It's not cheap, but it's not ridiculously expensive either, just a nice place for a special occasion. My mom called me on a Tuesday evening. "Sarah, we're planning Emma's birthday dinner for Saturday at Marcello's. We wanted to give you advance notice so you can plan accordingly." I was confused by the wording. "Okay, what time should I be there?" There was a long pause. "Well, actually, we need to talk about that. Emma and Jake have expressed that your presence makes Emma uncomfortable lately, especially after what happened at the engagement party. They think it would be better if you didn't come to the dinner." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Are you seriously uninviting me for my own sister's birthday dinner?" "It's not that we don't want you there, honey. It's just that Emma feels like she can't relax and enjoy herself when you're around. She's worried you'll judge her choices or make comments about the restaurant being too expensive or something like that." The irony was unbelievable. I had never once made Emma feel bad about money or judged her choices. If anything, I'd been overly supportive to compensate for what I knew was favoritism toward her. "Mom, I have literally never done any of those things. When have I ever made Emma feel bad about money? You know how she is, Sarah. She's sensitive. And with a wedding coming up and all the stress she's under, Jake thinks it's best if we keep things simple and drama-free." So now Jake was making decisions about who could attend family events? This was insane. What kind of drama am I causing by existing, exactly? My mom sighed. "Don't be dramatic, Sarah. It's just one dinner. There will be plenty of other opportunities to celebrate Emma." "Will there?" Because it seems like I'm being slowly cut out of the family entirely. That's not true. You're being oversensitive. Emma just needs space right now. I hung up feeling devastated and angry. But then something occurred to me. I called my mom back. Mom, who's paying for this dinner at Marcello's? Well, your father and I are splitting it. Why? And how much is it going to cost for everyone? She was quiet for a moment. Probably around $400 for the 6 of us. My parents, Emma, Jake, and Emma's 2 best friends were going. $400 is a lot for you guys right now, isn't it? I knew my parents had been struggling financially since my dad's hours got cut at work and my mom's small business was barely breaking even. We'll manage. It's Emma's birthday. Here's the thing, I had been planning to offer to pay for the dinner as my birthday gift to Emma. I'd done this before for family celebrations because I knew my parents couldn't always afford the nice places they wanted to take us. I never made a big deal about it, never held it over anyone's head. I just quietly picked up the check or sent my parents money ahead of time. But this time, I'd been uninvited. So why should I pay? After I hung up, I thought about it for about an hour. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. They wanted to exclude me from the family but still expected me to financially support their decisions? Emma and Jake could complain about my success making them uncomfortable, but they had no problem benefiting from it when it was convenient. I looked up Marcello's online and found their phone number. I called and asked to speak to a manager. Hi, I need to ask about a reservation for Saturday night under the name Thompson. That's my parents' last name. Yes, I see it here. Party of 6 at 7 p.m. How can I help you? I need to cancel that reservation. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I ask the reason for the cancellation? I paused for a moment, then decided to be honest. The person who was planning to pay for the dinner just found out they're not invited. The manager was quiet for a moment. Oh. That's unfortunate. I'll cancel that for you right away. No charges since it's more than 24 hours in advance. Thank you. I hung up feeling a mix of satisfaction and anxiety. Part of me felt vindicated. If they didn't want me there, they could figure out how to pay for their own celebration. But part of me worried I was being petty. Then I remembered how humiliated I'd felt at the engagement party, how my parents had done nothing to defend me, how I was being erased from family events for the crime of being successful. My anger won out. I decided not to tell anyone what I'd done. I figured they'd find out when they showed up on Saturday. Saturday evening came, and I was a nervous wreck. I kept checking my phone, waiting for the inevitable calls. Finally, at 7:30 p.m., my phone started ringing. It was my dad. Sarah, what the hell did you do? I don't know what you mean. Don't play dumb. We're standing outside Marcello's and they're saying our reservation was cancelled. The hostess said someone called on Tuesday claiming to be paying for the dinner. That's weird. Did you try calling them to see if they have availability? Of course we did. They're completely booked. Emma's in tears and Jake is furious. What did you do? I took a deep breath. I canceled the reservation. What? Why would you do that? Because Mom told me that I wasn't invited because my presence makes Emma uncomfortable. But I was planning to pay for the dinner as Emma's birthday gift. Since you decided I couldn't be there, I decided I shouldn't pay for it either. There was silence on the other end. Finally, my dad spoke and his voice was shaking with anger. You vindictive little brat. How could you ruin your sister's birthday like this? I didn't ruin anything, Dad. You chose to uninvite me. I chose not to pay for a party I couldn't attend. Those are consequences of decisions that were made. You should have told us you were planning to pay. Would it have changed anything? Would I suddenly have been invited if you knew I was footing the bill? He was quiet because we both knew the answer was probably yes. Where are we supposed to take Emma now? Everywhere good is booked on Saturday night. I don't know, Dad. Maybe somewhere you can actually afford? I hung up. Within minutes, Emma was calling me, sobbing. Sarah, how could you do this to me? It's my birthday. Emma, I was uninvited from your birthday. Why should I pay for a celebration I'm not allowed to attend? You never said you were going to pay. I shouldn't have to announce every time I plan to do something nice for the family. I've been quietly helping with family expenses for years. We never asked you to do that. You didn't have to ask. That's what family does for each other. But apparently, I'm only family when you need money. She hung up on me. Then Jake started texting me. I won't repeat most of what he said because it was vile, but the general theme was that I was a selfish, vindictive person who couldn't stand not being the center of attention. He accused me of deliberately sabotaging Emma's birthday out of jealousy. My mom called next. She was crying. Sarah, how could you be so cruel? Emma's birthday is ruined and your father had to put the dinner on the credit card. Do you know how much financial strain we're under right now? Then maybe you should have thought about that before planning an expensive dinner you couldn't afford. Or better yet, maybe you should have thought about it before uninviting the daughter who was planning to pay for it. You're being impossible. This isn't about money. It's exactly about money, Mom. You want to exclude me from the family but still benefit from my financial support. You can't have it both ways. The calls and texts continued all weekend. Various family members weighed in after Emma and Jake told their version of events on social media. Most of my extended family thought I was being petty and vindictive. A few cousins privately messaged me saying they understood why I was upset but thought I went too far. What really got to me was seeing Emma's social media posts about the disaster of her birthday. She posted a series of Instagram stories showing her crying, with captions like "when your own sister sabotages your special day and some people can't stand seeing others happy." Jake shared them all with his own commentary about toxic family members who use money as a weapon. The worst part was the comments. People I'd known for years were calling me selfish and cruel. Emma's friends, who I'd always been nice to, were posting things like "Sarah always seemed so fake nice," and I knew there was something off about her. It was like watching my reputation get destroyed in real time. But what really broke my heart was seeing my parents' response. Instead of defending me or trying to get both sides of the story, my mom commented on Emma's post, "We're so sorry your birthday was ruined, sweetheart. We'll make it up to you." My dad shared Jake's story about toxic family members. They were publicly throwing me under the bus to support Emma's narrative. I spent Saturday night lying awake, replaying every interaction I'd had with my family over the past few years. Was I really the villain here? Had I been unconsciously flaunting my success and making Emma feel bad? I started second-guessing every conversation, every gift, every offer of help. Sunday morning, I called my best friend Jessica to get an outside perspective. Jess has known me since college and has witnessed most of the family drama over the years. "Jess, I need you to be brutally honest with me. Am I really as awful as everyone is saying I am?" She was quiet for a moment. "Sarah, honey, you know I love you, but I'm going to be real with you. What you did was pretty nuclear." My heart sank. "So you think I was wrong?" "I think you were pushed to a breaking point and you reacted. But let me ask you something, how many times over the past few years have you called me crying about something Jake said or did? How many times have you told me about walking on eggshells around Emma?" I thought about it. A lot. "And how many times have I told you that your family's treatment of you wasn't normal or fair?" "Every time." "Right. So while canceling the dinner was dramatic, it wasn't coming from nowhere. You've been telling me for months that you felt like you were being pushed out of your own family. Sometimes it takes something big to wake people up to how bad things have gotten." That conversation helped, but I was still consumed with doubt. Maybe I should call Emma and apologize. Maybe I should offer to pay for another dinner somewhere else. Maybe I should just swallow my pride and go back to being the family ATM if it meant having my sister back. Then Sunday afternoon happened. I was at Target, trying to distract myself with mundane errands, when I ran into Mrs. Patterson, my high school English teacher. She'd always been fond of me and had kept in touch over the years. She knew my family well because Emma had been in her class 3 years after me. "Sarah, how are you, dear? I saw some concerning posts on social media about family troubles." I felt my face burn with embarrassment. "Yeah, it's been a rough weekend." She frowned. "I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've been watching the dynamic between you and Emma for a while now, especially since she started dating that boy Jake. What I've seen doesn't reflect well on them." I was surprised. "What do you mean? Do you remember Emma's high school graduation party? You had just gotten your first big promotion, and you were so excited to celebrate Emma's achievement. But every time someone congratulated you on your success, Jake would make some snide comment about how not everything was about you. You spent the whole party trying to deflect attention away from yourself to avoid conflict." I did remember that. I'd been so excited about my promotion, but I'd barely mention it because Jake kept making faces every time someone brought it up. "And then there was Christmas 2 years ago at your parents' house. You brought those expensive wines you've been saving, wanting to share something special with the family. Jake made that comment about how some people like to show off their money, and you ended up hiding the bottles in the kitchen and not even opening them." I had forgotten about that, but she was right. I'd been so excited to share those wines. They were from a vineyard I'd visited on a work trip to California, and I thought the family would enjoy trying something new. But Jake's comment had made me feel like I was being flashy, so I'd quietly put them away and never opened them. "Sarah, I've taught hundreds of students over the years, and I've watched many of them grow up and start families. What I've observed in your family dynamic is troubling. You've been systematically trained to minimize yourself to make other people comfortable. That's not healthy, and it's not your fault." Her words hit me like a truck. She was right. I'd been making myself smaller for years without even realizing it. Every success I'd achieved had been tempered by the need to manage other people's reactions to it. The thing about Jake is that he's threatened by your success because it highlights his own lack of direction. Instead of being inspired by your work ethic and using it as motivation, he's chosen to tear you down. And Emma, bless her heart, has bought into his narrative because it's easier than confronting the fact that she's chosen someone who's holding her back. I started crying right there in the Target aisle. Not because I was sad, but because someone finally saw what I'd been experiencing. Someone finally validated that I wasn't crazy or imagining things. Your parents have taken the path of least resistance by managing his feelings instead of protecting you. They've prioritized keeping the peace over standing up for what's right. But sweetheart, you can't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm forever. When I got home, I felt different. Clearer. Mrs. Patterson had given me language for what I'd been experiencing. I'd been systematically minimized and trained to manage other people's insecurities about my success. I started thinking about other examples. The time I'd gotten a bonus and wanted to treat the family to a nice dinner, but Jake had made comments about must be nice to have money to throw around, so I canceled and we'd ended up at Applebee's instead. The time I'd been featured in a local business magazine for a project I'd led, and Emma had said it was kind of embarrassing how much I was showing off about it. The countless times I'd bitten my tongue when Jake made disparaging comments about my career, my car, my apartment, my choices. I realized that for the past 5 years, I'd been living my life in reaction to Jake's insecurities. I'd been making decisions based on what wouldn't upset him rather than what was right for me. And my family had not only allowed this, they'd encouraged it by consistently asking me to be the one to compromise. Monday morning, I woke up with a new perspective. I wasn't going to apologize. I wasn't going to offer to pay for another dinner. I wasn't going to continue enabling a dynamic that required me to make myself smaller so other people could feel bigger. But the pressure to cave was intense. My phone was constantly buzzing with messages from family members who had gotten Emma's version of events. My Uncle Tom left a voicemail saying I was acting like a spoiled brat and needed to grow up and apologize. My cousin Lisa texted that I was being ridiculous and should just pay for another dinner and move on. The breaking point came Monday evening when my parents showed up at my apartment unannounced. I buzzed them up, hoping they were coming to have a real conversation about what had been happening. Instead, my mom immediately launched into a lecture about how disappointed she was in my behavior. "Sarah, your sister has been crying for 3 days. Emma's friends are asking questions about why her own sister would sabotage her birthday. How do you think that makes us look as parents?" "So this is about how it makes you look?" "It's about family, Sarah. It's about putting aside petty grievances and being there for each other." "Petty grievances? Mom, I've been systematically excluded and insulted for years, and you've done nothing about it. Now you want me to apologize for finally setting a boundary?" My dad jumped in. "You didn't set a boundary, Sarah. You acted like a child throwing a tantrum. Do you realize Emma and Jake are talking about moving across the country after the wedding? They say they can't handle being around this kind of family drama. So I'm supposed to accept being treated poorly so Emma won't move away? You're supposed to be the bigger person. You're older, you're more successful, you should be mature enough to rise above this petty nonsense." There it was again. I was expected to be the bigger person while everyone else was allowed to behave badly. I was expected to manage everyone else's emotions while no one considered mine. "Mom, Dad, let me ask you something. In the past 2 years, how many times has Jake insulted me in front of the family?" They looked at each other. "Sarah, that's not, how many times? Give me a number." "I don't keep count of things like that." "I do. 17 times. 17 times in 2 years, Jake has made disparaging comments about my job, my money, my choices, or my character in front of family members. How many times have either of you told him to stop?" They were quiet. "0. The answer is 0. But you know what you have done? You've asked me to stop talking about work promotions because it makes him uncomfortable. You've asked me to not drive my car to family events because it makes him feel bad. You've asked me to tone down my enthusiasm about things I'm excited about because it might upset them. You've spent 2 years managing their feelings by controlling my behavior. That's not fair, Sarah. Isn't it? When Jake called me selfish and materialistic at Emma's engagement party, what did you do? You told me I should apologize to keep the peace. When he posted on social media about toxic family members this weekend, did you defend me? No, you shared his post. My mom started crying. We just want our family to stay together. Then why are you willing to lose one daughter to appease the other? That question hung in the air for a long moment. Finally, my dad spoke. Emma is getting married, Sarah. She's starting a new family. We need to support her during this transition. And I'm what, disposable? You're established. You're successful. You don't need us the way Emma does. There it was. The truth finally came out. They viewed me as self-sufficient and Emma as needy, so they'd allocated their emotional resources accordingly. My success had made me expendable in their eyes. So because I've worked hard and built a good life, I don't deserve family support? That's not what we're saying. It's exactly what you're saying. You're saying that Emma's feelings matter more than mine because she's more fragile. You're saying that Jake's insecurities are more important than my dignity. You're saying that I should accept being treated poorly because I'm strong enough to handle it. I walked to the door and opened it. I think you should leave. Sarah, please. Don't let this destroy our family. I'm not destroying anything, Mom. I'm just refusing to be the family scapegoat anymore. If that destroys the family, then maybe the family was already broken. They left, and I collapsed on my couch, emotionally drained but strangely relieved. The conversation had confirmed what I'd suspected. They saw me as the strong one who should sacrifice for the fragile ones. They expected me to absorb everyone else's dysfunction and smile while doing it. By Sunday evening, I was exhausted and starting to second-guess myself. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe I should have just told them I was planning to pay and let them decide if they wanted to re-invite me. Maybe ruining Emma's birthday wasn't worth making my point. But then I got a text from Emma that changed everything. "I hope you're happy. You've shown everyone what kind of person you really are. Jake was right about you from the beginning. You're jealous and bitter and you can't stand seeing me happy. Don't bother coming to our wedding." That text made me realize something important. This was never going to get better. Emma had chosen Jake's narrative about me over our actual relationship history. In her mind, I was the villain who deliberately made her feel bad about herself, despite years of evidence to the contrary. I realized that I'd been trying so hard to preserve a relationship that had already been destroyed. Emma and Jake had been systematically turning my family against me, and my parents had let it happen because it was easier than confronting the real problem. I decided I was done trying to fix things. I wrote a long message in our family group chat. "I want to address what happened this weekend. Yes, I canceled the reservation at Marcello's. I did it because I was uninvited for my sister's birthday dinner for the stated reason that my presence makes her uncomfortable. I was planning to pay for that dinner as Emma's birthday gift, as I have done for many family celebrations over the years. I find it interesting that my presence is uncomfortable when it comes to actually spending time together, but my financial contributions have never been uncomfortable. I've been quietly helping with family expenses for years because I love you all and want you to be able to enjoy nice things together. But I'm not an ATM. I'm a family member. If I'm not welcome at family events, then I shouldn't be expected to fund them. That's not vindictive, that's logical. Emma, I'm sorry your birthday dinner didn't go as planned. I'm not sorry for setting a boundary about how I'm willing to be treated. Jake, I'm sorry you feel threatened by my career success, but that's not my problem to manage. Mom and Dad, I'm disappointed that you've allowed this situation to get this far. Instead of addressing the real issues, you've chosen to manage Jake and Emma's feelings by excluding me. That's your choice, but choices have consequences. I won't be attending any family events going forward until this situation is properly addressed. That means honest conversations about what's really going on here, not just asking me to make myself smaller to accommodate other people's insecurities. I love you all, but I won't be treated like a second-class family member. The response was immediate and explosive. Jake called me every name in the book. Emma accused me of being manipulative and trying to make myself the victim. My parents said I was tearing the family apart over money. But something interesting happened over the next few days. A few family members started reaching out privately, saying they'd noticed the pattern of treatment toward me and thought it was unfair. My Aunt Linda called and told me she'd been watching the dynamic for months and thought Jake was poison for the family. My cousin Mark said he'd always admired how I handled Jake's rudeness with grace, and he couldn't believe my parents were allowing it to continue. Most surprisingly, my grandmother called. Grandma Rose is 89 and doesn't usually get involved in family drama, but she was furious. "Sarah, I've been watching this boy Jake treat you terribly for months, and I've been waiting for your parents to put a stop to it. What you did at that restaurant was exactly right. If they don't want you at the table, they can pay for their own meals." It was validating to hear, but it also made me sad. If other people could see what was happening, why couldn't my parents? The wedding is next month, and as Emma promised, I'm not invited. My parents tried to convince me to apologize so I could come, but I refused. I'm not apologizing for having boundaries. What made the wedding exclusion even more painful was learning about it through social media rather than a direct conversation. Emma posted her bridesmaid photos with a caption so grateful for my chosen family who will be standing by my side on the most important day of my life. The emphasis on chosen family felt like a deliberate dig at me. I found out from my cousin Mike that Emma had originally planned to ask me to be her maid of honor when she first got engaged. Apparently, she'd even mentioned it to a few people before Jake convinced her that having me in the wedding party would steal focus from her special day. The thought that I'd gone from potential maid of honor to completely uninvited was devastating. The most frustrating part was watching my parents' desperate attempts to manage the situation without actually addressing the core problems. My mom called me 3 separate times with increasingly elaborate plans for how I could make things right with Emma. First, she suggested I write a heartfelt apology letter taking full responsibility for the birthday dinner incident. When I refused, she proposed that I could pay for Emma's honeymoon as a peace offering. When that didn't work, she even suggested I could skip the ceremony but pay for the reception bar tab as a gesture of goodwill. Each suggestion made it clearer that they saw me as a problem to be managed rather than a daughter whose feelings mattered. They weren't trying to repair our relationship, they were trying to buy Emma's forgiveness with my money while requiring no accountability from her or Jake. The breaking point in the wedding discussion came when my dad called me 2 weeks before the ceremony. "Sarah, Emma's been having panic attacks about the family situation. Her therapist says the stress of the conflict with you is affecting her mental health. Don't you think you should put aside your pride for her well-being?" I was stunned. "Emma's in therapy?" Yes, she's been seeing someone since the birthday dinner incident. She's been struggling with anxiety about the wedding and feeling like the family is falling apart. Part of me felt terrible that Emma was struggling with anxiety. But another part of me was frustrated that her mental health was being used as a weapon against me. Dad, I'm glad Emma is getting help if she needs it. But my having boundaries isn't causing her anxiety. The dysfunction in this family is causing her anxiety. That's not fair, Sarah. You know Emma's always been sensitive. Sensitive to what? To me existing? To me having a successful career? To me not allowing her fiancé to insult me without consequences? You know it's not that simple. It actually is that simple, Dad. Either Jake's behavior toward me was acceptable, or it wasn't. Either Emma's decision to exclude me from family events was reasonable, or it wasn't. You can't have it both ways. He sighed heavily. Emma asked me to tell you that if you apologize and promise to contribute to the wedding costs, she'll consider inviting you to the reception only. Not the ceremony, but the reception. The audacity was breathtaking. After months of insults and exclusion, Emma was graciously offering to let me pay for the privilege of attending part of her wedding. Let me get this straight. Emma will allow me to come to the reception if I apologize for setting boundaries and pay for the privilege? She's trying to find a compromise, Sarah. That's not a compromise, Dad. That's extortion. Emma gets everything she wants, my money, my apology, and the satisfaction of knowing she can treat me however she likes without consequences, and I get the honor of being allowed to pay for drinks at a party where I'm clearly not wanted. The conversation ended with my dad accusing me of being stubborn and me hanging up in frustration. I realized that my family had become so accustomed to my accommodating behavior that they genuinely couldn't understand why I wouldn't accept being treated as a second-class family member. The hardest part is that I genuinely miss Emma. Despite everything, I still love my little sister. But the Emma I grew up with seems to be gone, replaced by someone who sees me as a threat to her happiness rather than someone who's always been in her corner. Jake has succeeded in isolating Emma from me, and my parents have enabled it every step of the way. I've lost my sister, and probably my parents too, because apparently loving someone means making yourself smaller so they can feel bigger. The financial implications have been interesting too. My parents are struggling with wedding costs now that they know they can't count on my anonymous contributions. Emma and Jake had to move their reception to a cheaper venue, and Emma's been posting passive-aggressive things on social media about how hard it is to plan a wedding without family support. Part of me feels guilty about that. But mostly, I feel free. I'm done walking on eggshells. I'm done hiding my success to make other people comfortable. I'm done being the family ATM while being treated like an unwanted guest. I've started therapy to work through the family dynamics and figure out how to build a life that doesn't revolve around trying to earn love from people who seem determined to withhold it. Some people think I went too far. Maybe I did. But sometimes you have to make a dramatic gesture to show people that their behavior has consequences. I spent years being the bigger person and swallowing my hurt feelings to keep the peace. Where did that get me? Uninvited for my own sister's birthday. I don't regret canceling that reservation. It was the moment I stopped allowing my family to have it both ways, treating me poorly while benefiting from my success. If they want my money, they need to treat me with basic respect. If they can't do that, they can figure out how to pay their own bills. The saddest part is that this whole situation was so avoidable. If Jake hadn't been threatened by my success, if Emma hadn't bought into his narrative about me, if my parents had set boundaries instead of managing his feelings by excluding me, we could have been a happy family. Instead, they chose to preserve Emma and Jake's comfort at the expense of my dignity. Well, comfort is expensive when you're paying for it yourself. I hope Emma's wedding is everything she dreamed of. I hope she and Jake have a wonderful marriage. And I hope someday she realizes what she lost when she chose to see her sister as an enemy instead of an ally. As for me, I'm building a new life with people who celebrate my success instead of resenting it. I'm dating someone who's proud of my accomplishments and thinks my family is crazy for treating me this way. I'm investing in friendships with people who value me for who I am, not just what I can provide financially. It hurts that it came to this, but I'm finally free from the exhausting job of trying to earn love from people who were determined not to give it. Sometimes the trash takes itself out, even when that trash is your own family. The restaurant cancellation was just the beginning. It was the moment I decided to stop setting myself on fire to keep other people warm. And honestly, I should have done it years ago.